Someone asked me in a YouTube comment if MGear has any way to rig cartoony faces, and it in fact does. They have a facial rigger. This facial rigger hasn't been updated, as far as I can tell, since 2018. I mean, other than kind of updating some of the code to be Maya compliant with newer versions of Maya. But we still can make it work with a few gotchas. A couple of things that I needed to do. First of all, you can select a head or upper lip joint. In my case, I just created a joint, and that becomes the parent of all these lip joints that it's going to create. So I created this joint here, and I just ended that into both the head lip joint and jaw lip joint. Otherwise, I was getting some errors from that. The other thing you need to do is edit a little bit of code. So if you run this thing, you might get an error that has something to do with this dagpath.long name. And so essentially, MGear, since PyMaya is PyMel is no longer a thing, they made their own sort of PyMaya. And there is a line of code in here that is going to be like geo equals pm.listRelatives. And when we see pm, they're actually referring to their PyMaya module that's included in MGear. And it's looking at that edge loop you selected and the parent of that. So what I had to do is replace that with this code here. This is a little more PyMel independent. I will be including this in the blog post on griffinmore.com, and I'll try including this little snippet in any YouTube videos or anything I post with this content so that you can replace those lines as well. Otherwise, I was just continuously failing to build this. So the way this is going to work is you are going to essentially, grab an edge loop. So we select our mesh here, and we can find an edge loop. Just select edge. And if you don't know, if you shift and double click, shift and double click, you'll get a whole edge loop here, and you'll hit this button to enter those edges into this field here. You then want to select an upper and lower vertice. So the reason we do that is because lips might sometimes be overlapping, and MGear wants to know, where should I place those center joints? Where should I place those controls? So you select an upper vert and hit that button there to enter it, and a lower, hit that there. And then what I did was I created a face root group. I actually do that here under this neck C0 head CTL CNX off. This is kind of like the it's like a pre-made group that when you do an MGear rig, it parents it under the head. The IK should also control this group's position just fine, so that should work for you. So yeah, then I add that is my static rig parent. All right, next we can look at some of these settings. We have compute topological auto skin. This is going to try to auto skin it for you. I turn it off because I have a method for how I do face skinning, and I find sometimes just auto skin overly complicates that for me. And we can also say how many rigid loops and fall off loops. That's essentially going to be like how many main joints and sub joints is this thing going to build. As you can see in this last build, with these settings right here, I do have quite a lot of joints. That's probably more than I need for this, but that's fine. And then lastly, if you can import a config file from JSON, or you can export a config file from JSON. I save those right here next to my rig. So if I want to rebuild this, MGear does have a post-scripts step that comes with it. So if we open the shifter guide manager and we actually navigate all the way up to the guide and we hit settings, we'll see that here, custom steps. So you can have pre-custom steps, post-custom steps, and you can add these here. Make sure you have that checked so it actually runs it. And you could do something, write a little script that actually builds this lip rig along with your rig and even loads that config file up for you. Okay, so with all that done, you'd go ahead and press build lips rig. And if all goes well, you'll get a rig much like this one here. So you can see my jaw control. Here I have this. Now, like I said, this hasn't really been fully supported for a long time. So you might run into some issues. Like you might need to end up parenting these corner controls or these lips controls here into the appropriate spots. Here we have your lip root. Also these joints, you might want to end up parenting those under your head joint, especially if you're exporting this to game. You are going to need a full hierarchy for this to actually work. Okay, and here you see I ran it again. This time, instead of creating just joint one, I did pick my head joint, my jaw joint. I actually defined that face root group, which puts it under the head control, and everything seems to have built really well. I'm going to go ahead and skin this up really quick and then come back and show you that result. One little note here, you will see actually the jaw has all the lower jaw joints under it, and the head has all the upper jaw joints. I'm not a fan of the naming, but I can work around that. So something I'm noticing that no matter how many joints I set this thing to make, it just makes the same amount every time. You can see how, this is working, and if you really needed to, I don't think there's going to be any problem with kind of going through here and just selectively kicking out some of those joints. For me, this is just a lot of density for this particular rig. If you're making some high-grade cinematic thing, maybe that's, good for you. I just ended up paring mine down like this. Worth noting, this can be another cool like postscript thing you could do. One more thing worth noting is I did rename all these joints because I'm going to be skinning this. I don't want to be looking at those old names, so these are a little more descriptive for me. Okay, so I got a decent little skin on this thing. You can see kind of how this is reacting. That's pretty nice. I could definitely go in and polish the skin a good bit more. Another observation I made, though, while doing this is that it's very possible MGear is trying to use the number of edges that it found on that loop to determine how many joints go into that. I would have to do some experiments. And honestly, if they're doing that, that's pretty cool because you could then basically have a joint per vertex loop, which means skinning is kind of negligible. I mean, if you just find the closest joint and skin the verts around that to it, then you're not really going to have to do smoothing between lip joints. I end up doing something like that here, to get these going on. Once I start polishing this, I'd want to smooth out in between these a bit more. So that's pretty cool. I'd have to do some experiments on that. But yeah, this is pretty great. I mean, if you're looking to build a quick face rig, you can try out these MGear tools, and hopefully if you got stuck on some of these, I was able to help you out here today. Again, check out griffinmoore.com. I'll post up that snippet of script, and I'll also have this in a more text-friendly version.